Well, the motor vessel Dali finally left the Port of Baltimore this morning under the guidance of 4 tugboats, and this was all captured live as it happens from Channel 11's Sky 11 helicopter. And we're looking at one last fly-around look-over of the Dali as she's pulled away from the dockside there at the Seagirt Terminal. And then what a beautiful view this is with the city of Baltimore skyline in the background on a beautiful sunny day as she departs for Norfolk, Virginia. And right here, the Dali comes back almost full circle right back into the middle of the channel where it all began, where she crashed into that left side bridge pier that was supporting the bridge to begin with. See, it's just about there now. That tugboat that's pulling it, look right above it, and you'll see the remnants of that bridge pier just sticking up out of the water. It's an exact duplicate of the one that you see that's in front of the Dali ship right now. That looks like the big triangles sticking up out of the water. So right where Dali is right this very second is where it should have been on the night of March 26th, 2024, when it actually hit the other bridge pier support. And then Dali finally makes it through the channel there, the fully cleared 700-foot wide channel that was restored by the Unified Command back on Monday, June 10th, exactly 2 weeks ago, after being clogged for a couple of months. And then you can see Dali is clearing the Fort McHenry, the little island right there. Now you can see Dali is smack dab in the center of that 700-foot wide channel. But keep in mind, though, there's actually, I believe, 1,100 to 1,200 feet in between the two sets of pylons there. So you can see how narrow of a distance it missed going through by when it actually collided into that left side set of the bridge supports. Just a few more feet over to the right and it would have cleared. Even the Stream Time Live camera got a nice view of it, because as you know, that camera's been fixated on this bridge the whole time, and this is they're cameras that actually captured the original collapse of the bridge when Dali crashed into it. So now here's that very similar view now of Dali coming back up, only this time it's going to be successful. So there she is right at the scene right there where it originally crashed into the bottom of that bridge pier support there. So there's the view that we had seen for probably a couple of months there Now Dali is just effortlessly gliding right by there because it's in the center of the channel this time and it has power this time. And you can see all of the work they had to do there to prep it. There's a big tarp there that's covering the big gaping hole in front of the hull as they limp it down and then into the Chesapeake Bay and then down into Norfolk. But you can see, I was surprised that they really didn't cut off as many of the concrete pillars there as I expected to. So, there was one big length of it that was hanging off the side of this ship, and they did cut it off about a week or so ago, and then they did absolutely nothing, and I'm like wondering, well, what's going on? What are they going to do now? And then they announced a few days ago that they were going to move the Dali, so that's why they didn't. All they wanted to do, I guess, was just make things a little bit more safer for it to make the trip down there and then send her off on her way. Now, you remember about a month ago, I showed you Captain Andy's awesome drone footage here over the Dali, showing that the roadway was still on there on May 25th, and then a week later, it was already gone. But you can see how the concrete pillar was hanging over the edge there. And once they cleared all of this debris, so once again, Mark over at Dead Rise Marine Photography came through, and he showed us the problem. See how it was hanging off? But they cut the pillar, and this is what they were left with. And I thought that they were going to just keep on going, but apparently they decided not to. And so here, Captain Andy had showed us on this drone footage how they had brought some heavy equipment and set it up there on the deck of the Dali there. And there's like some cherry pickers they brought in there. And then what we noticed was that there was some crushed containers underneath where they removed the roadway, and you remember they cut off part of that pillar. So we didn't even know that was there until they removed the roadway. And here's where they made that cut into the pillar. They just sliced right through it, nice and clean, probably with one of those diamond cables or diamond saw or diamond chain, whatever they use to do it. It's some big tool that they run through there. It's like on a big cable type thing. And then look at the scale here of these guys walking around, how big the top of this bridge pier cap is. And so that's probably why they decided not to mess with it here. Let's just get it down to Norfolk when they're doing the repairs, and we'll mess with it there. And then here is that piece that they cut off of the pillar that was overhanging off the bow of the Dali. And then look how big it is in size compared to these guys on the crane barge right next to this little barge. And so apparently this is all they decided to do, just kind of clear off the deck, make it safer, and then let's get Dali the heck out of Dodge. And then a few hours later, Dali approached the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. So here's the footage that was captured by Washington, D.C.'s Fox 5 channel from their helicopter. And look at this, another beautiful sunny day out there too, as it went under the double bridges there. And here it is. I sped it up for you as it made it perfectly under the bridge there without incident. And man, I got to tell you, it looks pretty tall though. It looks like it almost barely cleared it. But, you know, at that kind of scale, it's probably a lot more distance than you think. But look at that beautiful view once it cleared it. Now, as an abundance of caution, the police had closed the Chesapeake Bay Bridge before the Dali passed under it. So now they're allowing the traffic to flow again. So you can see the stream of the first cars emerging from one side, and on the other side they're already crossing. So they didn't wait long at all. As soon as Dali crossed underneath, let's open those lanes up. And then one of the cams built onto the Bay Bridge captured Dali sailing underneath it. So I sped this up for you 8 times, and there she goes, right under both sections of the bridge. Look how close that is. Oh. So Vessel Finder shows us where the path that Dali is taking to get down there. So you can see here it left here about 8 o'clock this morning at Baltimore, passed through the Key Bridge here, and then later on in the afternoon, as I showed you, and then later on in the afternoon, as I showed you, it passed by Annapolis and where the Chesapeake Bay Bridge is. I showed you that. So it's now long past that. And if you look at the little table here, it says that it should be arriving there tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So it's 13 hours from now. Okay, so if we zoom out to see where we're at. So right now it's sort of in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay. And it's going to come all the way down here by Newport News in Norfolk, in Portsmouth, right in this area here. So it's going to be coming down here. Now the news reports are saying that when it gets here to Norfolk, that it's going to go here to the Virginia International Gateway right here and unload 1,100 of the containers. I don't know why it's not unloading all of them. I don't know what their plan is and what the laws are, because I thought I saw a report a few weeks ago that said something like, once it's been loaded onto a ship, it can't be loaded into another U.S. city or something like that. They might have given special permission, or maybe there really isn't a law like that, but we know that it's supposed to unload some there, and that it's supposed to then turn around and go over here, and then all the way over to here to the Norfolk International Terminals, where they're supposedly going to do the repairs. So that's the preliminary report that we've seen. That's probably subject to change. And if you look, it's real close to where the naval shipyards are right here. I don't think they're going to allow any drones to be flown there. As you know, Captain Andy over at the Minorca and Mullet channel loves to have his drones up, and I'm not sure if he could get in there tight enough or not to be able to show anything. You know, that this whole airspace here is likely restricted due to the naval presence right there. So this was the scene that all of the regular ships had to deal with throughout the months of April and May, as they were recovering all of the parts of the bridge debris from the bottom of the Patapsco River. So here you can see this big old cruise ship here going right by as the Chessie 1000 crane is pulling up one of those last 2 gigantic pieces. Now I want you to take a look at this piece of incredible video given to us by the Unified Command. This is the very first up-close and personal view of the bottom of the bridge pier that Dali crashed into. So these are the 4 pillars that were sheared through by Dali. Now I actually only believe that Dali might have sheared 1 or 2 of them, and then of course the other 2 collapsed just simply because of the lack of support. They couldn't handle the weight. But look at this, nice, good, in front of your face, crystal clear video of what the entire bottom of this bridge pier looked like. And you can see the wood doesn't really do much, especially when the hull of the ship is overhanging and it went past it. Now, had they built something around this, had they make a wider cement surrounding these pillars, it might have been okay then. Because as it is, Dali only just barely hit it by a few feet. And the salvors spent like the first 2 weeks of June really going crazy, pulling up these last few pieces out of the main channel. So remember, they had the channel expanded up to 400 feet, but now they need to reacquire those other 300 feet back to complete the full channel in time for Fleet Week. That came up last week, actually. And so here they were pulling up that last little piece of truss. Now, on one of my videos, my last video on the trusses, I thought that was the last piece, but it wasn't. This was the tip of the iceberg piece that was next to it. I thought it was just a small little piece. But man, the more they pulled this thing up, you could see what all was coming off of it. And they actually had to use their torches to cut different sections of the roadway that were still clinging to it, that wanted to come up with it, and they just didn't have the capacity for it. So here they are welding away. And then they hauled it all off to Sparrows Point. And then here you can see on Monday, June 10th, is when the Army Corps of Engineers declared that the entire 700-foot wide channel was recovered and is fully operational again. So you recall, once they moved the Dali on May 20th, right here, they're saying here in the press release, they gave the access to that channel was increased up to 400 feet. So that pretty much allowed any kind of traffic to go through there at that point. But now that they have fully operational 700-foot wide channel, we can go back to the two-way traffic again that they always had. And this was just in time for Fleet Week, folks. And check this out. This is interesting because I live here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And this right here is the USS Fort Lauderdale showing up. I sent that boat up there personally myself. So this ship right here is stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. And look, it's going right by the little section of the pier base where the Dali had crashed into the bridge. Right below there where the claws hanging. So what a view that was. So of course I will keep you up to date with the NTSB investigation into the Dali incident and the crash into the Francis Scott Key Bridge there in Baltimore. And thank you so much for joining us again here today, folks. And we'll see all of you on the next one.